Welcome back to Speaking Truth to Goodness, where this season we are bringing in candidates from Portland's City Council race for in-depth and heartfelt conversations. For today's episode, we were thrilled to have Sonja McKenzie in our studio. She's a dedicated community leader and a vibrant candidate for Portland City Council, District 1. But our buddy Jerry Atkin was traveling the week of recording, so I'm also happy to welcome back our first guest host and dear friend of the show, Michaela McCormick, joining us once again as we got to know Sonja. Sonja's journey from the suburbs of Houston to this exciting moment of Portland's civics and election scene marks a career devoted to public service and enhancing community well-being. With a rich background that encompasses volunteer administration, community engagement, and educational leadership, Sonja brings a wealth of expertise to her campaign. From her initial teaching roles in Houston to leading significant projects at the Oregon Community Foundation, Sonja has shown a steadfast dedication to creating inclusive and supportive spaces. In this episode, Sonja outlines her vision for Portland, addressing how she plans to confront the city's most urgent challenges by drawing on her extensive experience in the nonprofit and education sectors. Join us as we get curious about Sonja's distinctive approach to leadership and community development and the powerful impact of civic engagement right here in Portland. Like, share, and subscribe, and follow us on Instagram. Here it is. Welcome to the roundtable today, Sonja and Michaela.
Hello.
So glad
Hello.
to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you, Sonja.
You too.
Yeah. So now Michaela has been working in activist spaces for
50 years.
There you go. There you go. And what kind of primarily have you worked in?
Well, I've been in a lot of different projects and organizations and movements. Mostly I've tried to help build alternative political structures, very ground-based movements that address a lot of different issues. Peace, poverty, racism, housing, but what I've been doing for the last few years is working with Extinction Rebellion on the climate crisis and injustice issues that creates.
Yeah. Quite a wealth of giving and knowledge we have at this table between the two of you. I just love this.
Yeah, I would say that my advocacy started in the classroom as a teacher about more than 25 years ago. I was a special education teacher, and I was struggling trying to provide support to students. I was working at inner city school districts with particularly youth of color that were struggling with special needs and needing additional support and resources. What I found was I was more of an advocate than anything, getting them in inclusive spaces, getting them resources they needed. And I couldn't put a name on it, but it was many years later when I left education, started a family. I was a stay-at-home mom for many years, re-entered the workforce, and then I saw what was happening in education. That's when I was here in Oregon, and really seeing the disparity of outcomes, the disparities of resources, particularly for students of color. And that's where my advocacy was really born, just from starting with PTA, site council, and I found that I had a knack for it, and I remembered my training and education. And so what I found was I had a platform, I had a way, I had a voice, and it was a quiet voice, but people were like, whoa, wait a minute, she knows what she's talking about. And it kind of started my journey. I'd be in these spaces and parents would turn to me and say, Sonja, could you lead this for us? When I had my twin girls in Head Start, I remember sitting in a group of parents and they needed a representative for Head Start Policy Council. And parents turned to me and said, we'd like Sonja to be a part of that and represent our needs. And so, as my ability to lead and my voice and my platform grew, I just found I had a knack for it, and I really loved it. And it was what I saw was with collaborating with others like myself we could move things, we could change things, and those impacts I could see through the time my kids went through school, that we were able to advocate and change things, and just elevate the conversation about what was not, what resources our children weren't getting, what the needs were. And it's really been something that's fueled my passion. In addition to that, raising my kids and building a career, I was doing all three of those in the last 15 years. So it's been quite the journey, but I've just loved it.
All right. Busy woman.
How do you see your time in education and also with your children at home? How do you see that as like a core piece of what you want to bring to the city?
Yeah, I believe I see that that what I've learned and what I've been able to do at the local, state, and regional level in education, there's a lot of tenets to that I can bring to City Council. What I found is I didn't move those things alone. Student Success Act was not a one-shot deal. It wasn't done just with legislators. That was in coordination with having interviews and having forums with community members, with parents, with kids, with stakeholders, with culture-specific organizations, finding out where those gaps were, what those resources could be used for. And we did that collaboratively. So as a board member, I was sitting at the table with other East County board members and telling our legislators, this is why we need the funding. This is where we're at in terms of what we can do with our state school fund. These are the limitations. We want to bring back PE and art and full programming to support our students. These are the gaps. And so with those conversations, I saw this movement where we were able to translate that into funding and historic funding with the Student Success Act. That's a great model of how I believe that, collaboratively, listening to community, problem solving, developing a plan, and how allocating those resources, and then seeing the fruits of that years later. It takes time. You have to, and when you've been disinvested for years, you have to continue to invest, and it will take years to see the results of that. And it was really interesting how that happened. We were able to pass that, and then we had COVID, and then we realized that was even more, the inequities and challenges were even more visible with that process, and it really was more like a confirmation of what we had been talking about for years, the disinvestment in education. And so I've just seen firsthand how, in collaboration with others, that my advocacy and my experience, what the result of that has been, and that's going to be years ongoing of investment and improving outcomes for our kids, which is vitally important. So
it seems like by what you just said that you have the ability to, instead of putting yourself like, hey, everybody, look at me, I'm doing a thing, I completely see that you are understanding how to reach out and make connections and connect other people in a way that is really kind of hitting me in the heart right now, because I find myself to be quite an introvert, and some of that, like trying to put my voice out there, and like the fact that it would draw attention to me is a real off-putting thing for me, whether that's my upbringing or whatever. But so I'm so appreciative of hearing, you stated you're soft-spoken, and I don't know if you extend that to introvertedness.
I do.
You do? Okay.
I do. I am a natural introvert, but I've found myself in positions of leadership at the state level. Last year I was president of the Oregon School Board Association and was speaking on national panels and did television interviews and radio interviews. And I feel that I come out of my shell when I'm passionate about something, and I feel the levity of it, and I can speak to it, and it's my strength, and I'm like, I can do this. I might be soft-spoken, but as long as I have a microphone and I'm passionate and I know what the end goal is and I know what the needs are and I know that I'm speaking for those who can't speak for themselves, that's what fuels my passion. And my kids see that. They see a mom who is soft-spoken, who will canvas and go to communities and knock on doors and share my challenges as a mom and my love of community. Please vote for me. I've been doing that. I've been reelected twice to Park Rose and did that with just loving meeting people and sharing who I am and what I'm about and what I'd like to see happen. And I feel like sometimes the strongest voices are those that are quiet, but also when they're fueled with passion and they have support around them, that you can really see things change.
Yeah. I've kind of come across this idea that because of COVID, I know you had mentioned COVID, that there almost seemed to be like the rise of the introverts or something, where like that
Sure.
quiet time allowed us to
Yeah.
like level ourselves a little bit and decide to go for what's really important. Now, it sounds like you've been on that path longer than COVID,
Yeah.
but I just really appreciate hearing that. And I guess we don't have to dwell on it too long, but I am kind of curious if there's things you do to take care of yourself and to like recharge in the midst of, you know, what is potentially a low battery situation.
Yeah, that's a great. I appreciate the question. It just recently this year, after 7 years of pretty much going full force, using all my vacation time to travel to state, regional, and national conferences, I hit a point of exhaustion, mental, physical, and emotional. And I did take some time from work. I was able to get paid leave, and I did 6 weeks of paid leave. I did rest, relaxation, went to a doctor, just got some really great support, counseling, exercise, meeting with friends, lots of sleep. And I did that, and I told my children that the first couple weeks I was going to sleep quite a bit, but mommy needed to rest, and it was time. And it was exactly what I needed. I was able to get up every day, do self-reflections, eat a meal, have my time with counselors, have dinner with friends, exercise, read, and I had not been doing that. And so you do deplete yourself, and I saw that coming. But I was very grateful for the opportunity to take that time. I've been able to go back to work and back to my board duties on several different boards, and just have a renewed sense of an appreciation of the opportunities I have ahead of me, but mindful of I have to make sure I take a couple days a week where I'm really mindful of meditation, rest, exercise, all of that. And so I'm incorporating that into my life. It's really hard to change those habits where you just go at 360 all the time. But I'm appreciative, and I'm sharing that journey now. I've taken that pause, and anyone that listens, I share that I took time, and I felt like my energy is better, my health is better. And I feel like I have a better appreciation of the challenges I have ahead of me. So,
very nice. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So you're in the thick of it again, running for city council.
I am.
And given all your experience in education and the fact that the city council doesn't have a direct responsibility for schools, do you see opportunities potentially if you get on the city council to address education issues?
I do. I see an opportunity. And one thing that we've done as a Board of Education is we have in the past few years, we have invited federal, state, regional, metro officials to meet with us for a legislative advocacy day. And so we talk about the overlap. We talk about healthcare. We talk about accessibility of our streets. We talk about preschool for all. We talk about all the intersecting priorities and fundings and things that are valid and important to our community, so they know what's happening in our community, where our budget shortfalls are, what kind of services we need, emergency response time, crime, all of that. That all intersects. They may not directly fund education, but they are a big part of zoning and safe streets and safe routes to schools and the healthcare centers we have in our school district. There's different intersectionalities. So one thing that's been really great about that is our city councilors and our other electeds are aware of what's happening in our community. So we've established, when I walk into an event, I know different representatives now just from those conversations we have. They know what's happening in Park Rose. And what it's been a lifeline. It's been able to connect us to other resources. We've been able to get them to advocate and support us in different specific ways. I think that there's an opportunity for city councilors to be really cognizant of what's happening in education in their communities. I think there's a big part of that. And some of that funding is secondary. It does go to everything from our environment, road access, infrastructure, all of that, sustainability of our communities. That all impacts our school districts and our communities. And so I think that there is an opportunity to see some intersection. Yeah. What I would like to do, if I have the opportunity as city councilor, is create an opportunity to keep school districts informed of what's happening at City Council and vice versa. So we would just share our notes, or we would convene once or twice a year and have a forum of elected school board officials with our city councilors, and just talking about the commonality of our issues and getting support and letting them know what our challenges are. As city councilors, we are going to be representatives of our community, and that community is our school districts. That's a big part of our community. So I think that there is a lot of intersectionality, just opportunities for city councilors to be aware of what's happening and support in any way they can.
Yeah.
So I happen to be aware that there are a very large number of people running for city council this time around. Do you know how many are running against you? Or, well, it's not really against you, but with you in District 1.
Well, and my understanding that currently I think that there are 11 running. I probably have that number wrong. It may have changed. But I believe I have 11 co-competitors.
Sure.
Yeah, and what I found is that, we are all friendly and supportive of each other. I feel really grateful for that. And I think part of that is because we're forging new ground. Second, a lot of us have crossed each other in our leadership capacities in community and are aware and fans of each other's work. And so what I found, it's been really lovely and supportive and non-competitive, and I'm hoping it stays that way. But yeah, there are a lot of people, but I think that it provides more options. But I think what's really key and important is really analyzing what the skill set that people bring. I think there's a danger of bringing someone who's a one-topic candidate. You want someone that's more well-rounded in experience and breadth of experience and knowledgeable what's happening in that community. I think it's incredibly important. And I think what I see in the candidate field is I think that our community is going to have lots of great options. I think it's a really great field, and I'm just really grateful to be a part of it. So
yeah, it's also been my understanding that given the fact that we're switching from our previous type of election system to this ranked choice voting system, that the candidates are somewhat being asked to spread the word about the new system and how people should think about how they analyze the candidates, and then even just the nuts and bolts of being able to, like, for the people to know how to vote, right? To say, because we're picking 6.
You have to, on the ballot, you'll select 6 candidates. You'll rank them from 1 to 6. And, obviously the top 3 should be your favorites, but you have the opportunity to select 6 candidates. So I think there's an opportunity in our platforms to educate voters. I believe that the city also has plans to do that, but that is something that my team, we've been working on. I've been publishing a newsletter. And so every newsletter we try to do a type of alert, a teaching moment. Last time I think we talked about the boundaries, where those lie. We've talked a little bit about the fundraising piece, the match, and I think our next opportunity will be sharing about what that looks like. What does ranked choice voting look like? Why it's important? How it really provides an opportunity for more representation, and maybe providing some examples of how that's happened across the country. We've seen the result of that as you see a different type of representation. When you have ranked choice voting, it gives you more opportunity to select a roster of candidates that are going to be representative. And so I think it's a great option, but there needs to be some education about it. And we're working to implement that in our platform. So, yeah.
So to help me understand better the ranked voting, which I'm not completely clear about.
Sure.
Would it be if I, as a voter, have particularly strong preferences in my district, would I increase my favorites' chances of getting elected if I voted for fewer on the ballot, like 3 of them instead of 6 of them?
I'm not sure about, I don't know how that happens, what the specifics are, but I know that there will be a requirement. They're asking for folks to select 6. I don't know if you select less than that, if that invalidates your ballot, or if it's impactful. That's a piece I don't know, because it was very new to us. But I know that the importance of selecting those 6 is what happens is, as the candidate 1 gets the most number of votes, once they hit a certain number, then the remaining number of those votes go to the number 2 person, and it kind of drops down from there.
Yeah.
So it's really critically important to have them listed in your preference, 1 to 6, and to really be true to the system and make sure it's, a system that's equitable. It's really important that people select 6 to follow the process, because I believe that could impact. It could be a negative impact if you don't complete your ballot appropriately. So I'm not clear if that invalidates your ballot. I'm not sure. I don't know the specifics of that either. But we're all learning together.
Yeah.
But it's really important, I think, having, and that's a real education piece, as telling folks that, you have an opportunity to select 6, go ahead and do that in a way that's really impactful. Going with your top 3.
Yeah. So it sounds like we all need more information.
We do.
In order to do it right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It seems like a really positive switch, though. I mean, I'm just really thrilled that we're moving that direction.
Yeah, even in conversations I've had with community members, they have their favorite candidates. I said, well, that's great. You have an opportunity to add 5 other people to that list. So, and also just to listen to other perspectives, and it gives you more options. So you have the ranked choices, gives you an opportunity to look at the field and not just have that one person, but look at even more candidates that, look at slates. I think a lot of candidates are looking at creating slates cross districts and within the districts too. So that might be another way that people are able to be informed by looking at who has common goals, experience, value systems. And so those are conversations that will be had too.
You said the word slate. Is that kind of like having a team and Survivor?
Not exactly. I think it's more of a collaborative effort. So in terms of when you're sharing, like you're doing your flyers, you're doing your public engagement, if you're forming, kind of like building a coalition of candidates that have common values, common goals. I see this happening across districts. I think that there's conversations happening now. I've had some conversations with candidates, and they're like just kind of in the infancy stages of thinking of, who's going to be on my slate? Is it going to be 4 people? Is it going to be 1 person from each district? And we have common value systems, common experiences, and so I think that is going to happen. And I think it's also going to make things a little bit easier for some folks because the fields are so incredibly large. Seeing a slate of 4 that might make things a little bit easier to decide. But I think it's just going to provide folks with more options. And it's an easier way with such a crowded field to make some informed decisions. Yeah.
Sonja, I have to admit that I'm kind of a skeptic about electoral politics.
Okay.
And I think this change in government structure is going in the right direction.
Yeah.
But obviously you have some hope that it will make a difference. And so I want to ask you, what hope do you have? Like, my critique of the existing system is that it's too much controlled by people who run for office who already have wealth and influence and power.
Yeah.
And when they get in office, they tend to act in order to maintain and build that and to get reelected. What differences do you see in this new system that we're adopting that will allow candidates and people who are eventually elected to serve more in the interests of the people that elected them and represent marginalized groups more?
Right. Yeah, I think that the beauty of restructuring in a new charter is that first and foremost is they created new districts, and there was some intentionality with that, the way that they drew the lines, the thoughtfulness and selecting 3 positions for each district. Being mindful, I think that they did an analysis of the representation of the city councils in the past. There's never been representation in east of 82nd, and there was intentionality in creating District 1. And I think that's just a game changer right there. Having knowing of the gentrification, I also lived in Northeast Portland more than 20 years ago 20 years ago when I moved here, and I had to move to East County for affordability, and this is where I've landed and raised my family. So being really knowledgeable of that, the diversity, how it's changed, and the lack of representation year after year for many years of East County, it's been critically important. I think the biggest thing that they did first was drawing those new lines for the zones, and then also being really thinking thoughtfully about building capacity. So in terms of representation, so being mindful that District 1 and District 2, this will be new opportunities for those communities to potentially have representation like they've never seen before. And that's every different type of representation: lived experience, culture, race, lived experience, whatever that may be. Critically important. And having the investment of having those two districts having 4-year terms, so building capacity for leadership. So it's not just a 2-year shot deal for District 1. We want to build capacity for leadership. 4 years gives you enough time to get in there, to start the new system, to build, to kind of build community, build your leadership, build your constituency, and then also just build that capacity to continue having leadership that's representative of the community. And I think there's a lot of thought that went into it. And I'm an optimistic person, and I'm optimistic that we're going to see a reflection of diversity we've never seen before, which makes me really excited. So.
I know, right? I knew.
I have my fingers crossed.
Yeah, your fingers crossed. I don't know if I swayed you, but I'm an optimist. Yeah. So.
Well, I can assure you I'm going to vote. I may go with my skepticism to the ballot box. But.
Right. But that's your power. That's your power. That voting power. I want to, impart to people that not to sit out this one. This is so incredibly important to have your voice speak and to speak loudly and to have the opportunity. What a beautiful opportunity first to have ballots come to your mailbox. I continue to tell people, I grew up in Texas, and it's mind-boggling that most of the country are still going to the ballot centers, and to have it come to your mailbox and to have the ability to vote for 6 candidates in your community and have this time to get to know who they are. And I think it's just really important and incredible. It's an incredible honor to be able to have a system that understands the importance of that. So,
do you think this new system and the opportunity for so many more people and different kinds of people to run for office has given you or made available to you directly or indirectly enough resources to run for city council?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that I think the way that it's structured now, I think with the funding, the finance, that provides an opportunity to have the match. If you go out in the community, you get so many donations, and to have resources. Because the thing that happens is your platform, the money, your message, that's what gets you elected. So you obviously need to be raising money so that you can create the infrastructure and the flyers to get out in the community. So I think what's happened with the charter reform, it has provided opportunities for folks who want to run. First, it's an even playing field. It's going to be, and within your community, you're going to have resources. If you want to be a part of the finance, the matching funds, you can be a part of that, and that's going to provide. And it's very grassroots. It's not, you don't have to raise so much, but you're going to get this incredible match, 10-1 if you get 250 significant unique donations. Yeah, so you get a great match to that, and I think that's a game changer as well. And I'm not aware of what it looked like in the past, but for me, when I looked at that, I thought, well, that's a great incentive, and that's a great way to, it's community driven. You're not asking for the moon. You're asking for anywhere from 5 to 250 is the maximum you're asking for community members, and you get this opportunity to get a match if you meet those thresholds. So I think that there are resources available.
So no one donor can give more than $250 to a candidate?
I believe that they can give more than once. They can. Because when I've mentioned or I've talked to other candidates, and have had folks that donate monthly. And I've had a lot of candidates advise if someone has donated, ask them to donate a few months later. They can give a match more. They can give a donation more than once. But I believe the maximum is $250. Or I could be wrong. So.
And that's the Portland Small Donor
Match
program.
Yeah.
Is that what it's called officially?
Small donor. Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
I mean, $5 becomes 50. What?
Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I've never heard of that before. I don't think that's been the case up until now, at least in Portland.
Yeah. And it's required to do the training to be able to be part of the program. So you have someone from the city that goes through the training with you, and your treasurer has to be a part of that too. So, yeah, I did that a few months back. So, yeah.
Let's see. I'm trying to think about something to trace your path from Texas to here. I'm just so curious. I saw in your bio that Katy, Texas,
yes, that's
was where you came from, and I have a little bit of a shared Katy, Texas to Portland history as well.
Really?
Not the same, but 10 years ago we lived in Minnesota, and my husband was offered a job in Katy, Texas. And we thought, whoa, we could move. I don't think we want to move to Texas, but whoa, we could move. And so we started looking where we might want to move, and we landed in Portland. So
okay,
it's funny. Katy figures into my story, but you came from there. What made you come here?
You know, I moved. I was there for a long time, and it was the right place. It was a wonderful place to grow up. We moved there. My dad had completed his master's degree. My mom was in banking industry as a teller and a manager. It was just a great community. It was master plan communities. It was suburban, but it was like rural and suburban. So it's like a small town suburb outside of Houston. Houston was like this big urban area, kind of scary. And being out in the suburbs, there's gravel roads and lots of great parks and great schools. And it's really outgrown now. It's like master plan community after master plan community. I felt like I outgrew it, though. I was there for a long time. I went to college. I was the only kid that went to school within 2 hours of Katy. All my siblings went out of state. I was always like the homebody, stayed close to home. Went to college, came back home, lived with my parents, became a teacher, remarried, and became a teacher. And I felt like it was time for me to just kind of fly and go somewhere else. And so my ex-husband and I, he was a Starbucks manager, and so we travel often. We went to different locations. We always came to Portland, Oregon, and just fell in love with the city. Just loved the landscape, loved the Four Seasons, and we came at different times of the year. And we had an opportunity to relocate here, and I just fell in love with it. I moved here about 25 years ago, and I've never looked back. It's been home to me, and was able to remarry and have a family, and stayed home for many years. Lived on a farm in Canby with my kiddos before I moved to Portland.
Wow.
And it's just been, and it was so different from my experience in Houston. The climate was much different when I moved here. Didn't need air conditioning.
Wow.
But I loved it. I loved, even when I lived like in Willamette Valley, which was really incredibly beautiful, I loved coming to Portland. I loved the accessibility. I was just fascinated with the transit system and all the parks and camping. And, I think I camped a few times in Texas, but, it's pretty scary. There's all kinds of critters. And I remember one time river rafting with friends, and there were moccasins in the water. And I'm done with snakes and critters. I've seen enough snakes to last me a lifetime. And the heat, the last summer I was in my home in Sugar Land, it was like 110, and I stayed in my house all summer. I was a teacher and never left the house. I mean, I thought, okay, we need to move. It's time. And I loved riding my bike, and I loved being outdoors, and it's like, you can breathe here. I just loved it. So it's been home with my kids, love being outdoors, and it's just been a revelation. I felt like I really grew up when I moved here. It was like a restart for me, because I'd always been really close to home and sheltered. I have wonderful parents, but they're kind of overprotective. And it's been a new start, and it's been a move I'm really proud of, that I moved here, and I consider it home now. So I love Oregon and love Portland. So
Yay. Me too. Here. We're all transplants, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of us here.
Yeah.
I don't know too many homegrown Portlanders.
Yeah.
I know, right? So now I guess I want to jump into the roles that you've held, the leadership roles you've
Sure.
held, especially in the last years that you've been here in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
And the things that you've come up against that you thought were great successes for you.
Sure.
And maybe some stories of things that you faced that were hard.
Yeah, it's always a journey with leadership. It's a testament to your will to really fight for the mission. I felt like I've had some really amazing opportunities to be in leadership and in a field of amazing people. I'm always surrounded by these amazing people. And they're like, yeah, I think Sonja can do this. I think we want you to lead this. And they're like, wow, really? Okay, you're trusting me with this? So I'll give one example. I had an opportunity years ago to be appointed to the board of directors for Dress for Success Oregon. Dress for Success Oregon is an incredible organization in my path. When I left that farmhouse in Canby, I was going through a divorce, 4 young kids, hadn't worked for 8 years. I walked into a Dress for Success office as a single mom in 2008 for a suiting appointment to get my suit, to get my interview for my first job, and I got the job. And I went back, started working, and went back 2 years later and realized they had other resources and support. So that was 2010. So fast track to, I think it was 2017. I'd been a client, was selected as a leadership delegate with the organization, was plugged into their professional women's group, and just kind of thrived and was able to do some things that I do for work now, managing volunteer programs. And so they were kind of watching me kind of in my career, this trajectory, and they thought, we have never had a former client on the board of directors. And so we've selected 5 candidates. We'd love to interview you, and the current board wanted to meet with us all. And they selected me and appointed me to the board of directors of Dress for Success. And so it was really emotional. And then about a year later, they asked me to be chair of the board of Dress for Success. And I mean, wow. I don't know if you've ever looked at the roster of the board of directors of Dress for Success Oregon. These are amazing women lawyers, and they run organizations. And, little me who, has my bachelor's degree and my HR certification, and, just struggling and starting my career. And I was just so honored to be there. And so under my leadership, we worked on internal and external equity, kind of rebuilding from within. So everything from what our handbook looked like, the handbook for human resources, the way that we announced our mission, the way that we hired, everything, all the language that we used. So we did equity, we did small teams of equity groups. It was our board, our staff, with stakeholders, with our clients, really just revamped our program. And it was part of a 5-year strategic plan, and I was able to lead that as the chair of the board, which was just an incredible experience. And there were challenges with that. Anytime that there's a change in leadership, that's a unique challenge. And I think having all that positive, but also whenever you transition leadership, that can be a real challenge. And so that was very nuanced, and we had a great team of some of us on the executive committee, and we had attorneys that kind of helped us transition. We found an interim leader, and that transition took a few months to take care of all of that. But the organization is thriving now under new leadership, and that was a challenge I was really nervous about. But I remembered how vitally important the organization is to the community. Yeah. And, those changes in transition and leadership can really make or break a small organization. And I just remembered I stayed true to the organization. I remember at one point in a really contentious meeting, just saying, I love this organization. It's impacted my life, and I'm going to fight for it. And I was surrounded by all these amazing women and attorneys on each side. And I thought, I might be soft-spoken. You might think that I'm frightened, but I'm here to protect the organization. That is what I'm here for. This is not about me. It's not about my ego, but we want to transition, and we want it to be peaceable. We want to keep the finances in order of the organization, and have you transition out and bring somebody else in. And that can be very challenging for nonprofits. That can make or break them. So that's one example of a challenge, and some really great things I've been able to do. I've had the opportunity to be twice elected to the Park Rose Board of Education. And so with that, I think that when I think back to things I'm most proud of, I think I've mentioned the advocacy days where we've had these conversations with every level of elected leaders in our community. And they know who we are, they know what the challenges of Park Rose is, and that's been really fruitful to see that kind of collaboration. In addition to that, we had a dream of having student voice and elevating that in our district, our board of directors. And so, as board of directors, what we do is we build a vision and we task the superintendent with kind of following through. So what we did for about a year, and this was during COVID, is we interviewed different programs around the state. There's other school boards that have student representation. So we evaluated the different type of student programs they had, and we decided on a model, and then we kind of tasked our superintendent with, here's the action, we want to see this in a year, and see, we said anywhere from 3 to 5 student representatives. So he got to work, and he worked with the student leadership. They created the process. We had the framework as the board, and he did all the internal work. And we were blessed with 5 representatives 2 years ago, our first cohort, and they were amazing. They spoke at our graduation. They spoke to the media. They were mentors to our younger students. They would go to the middle school and talk to the students that were on student council about the opportunities they've had. They were real partners with us in our board meetings. So they weren't able to vote, but they would come to our meetings. Before we voted on budget or policy, we would let them provide some input for the record.
Wow.
And they would bring issues and things to us. And there were things that policies and programming that we provided as a result of our conversations. They would bring concerns from students. So students would come up to them, knowing they were student board members, say, I'm concerned about this issue, or something with the bathrooms, or I didn't feel safe at the football game. So we looked at a way to evaluate, support, and directly respond to the needs of our students. And, we're really excited. We're entering our 3rd cohort. And I think we have 6 representatives this coming year. But it's been amazing, and they're really partners with us. They come to the board meetings, and we do round robin. They provide input on everything. They're real colleagues and partners with us. So really proud of the work of that we've done.
That feels very future thinking. I feel like there's been a couple other candidates at this table who have brought up kids.
Yeah.
And how kids are quite disenfranchised and disempowered from making choices for their own future.
Mm-hmm.
So that's rather amazing to hear that you've been able to add the voices of the kids.
It's a great program, and the way that we structured it is really different from a lot of districts. We provide a stipend, so they're paid for their time. They have a planning period. They have mentors. So we have, I believe, it's our assistant principals and our AVID coordinator that meet with them, and they kind of dissect our upcoming agendas, so they know where we're going to ask them to be kind of studying things, be prepared to provide comment. They provide reports. They also got some credit for their time as well.
Oh, wow.
So, they come out of that with a resume, if they can add that as an actual resume. And we've also included them at our annual convention that's usually downtown, our OSBA convention. So they've been able to come to that. I think the first cohort was there when I spoke as president. Some of them were there for that, and they've been able to attend sessions and just be engaged. It's really important. They are our colleagues and partners in the work. And people come up to us like, you pay them? You pay your student representatives? And it comes out of the board budget. So we use part of our budget to support that effort so that they, because we thought about that. We need to compensate for their time. They're busy juniors and seniors and working, and all of them are going on to career and college. And I know that a lot of them are going to be elected officials in the future. Just really powerful.
Really, right. You're raising up the next leaders of our city right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Yeah. So I'm really incredibly proud of that. So, and I can't take the credit for that, just other than that being a dream. There was a board member and I that started together, and it was our dream, and then we just passed it on to the full board, and we provided the framework, and our superintendent did the work, and we're just really proud of what the result of that. We can boast about that now around the state, about our program. So
it sounds to me like you're doing the work of a real leader. That's what it sounds like to me.
Thank you. Well, I think student voice is incredibly important. So they're the future,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's obviously a defining issue for you. We have a whole lot of issues. We're in trouble. The world's in trouble. The country's in trouble. Portland's in trouble.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of things to be done to fix them. What do you think, as a potential city council member, are the most important issues over the next 4 years to address?
Yeah, there's several. I think the first and foremost is public safety, and that's something that that touches home for me and many members of our community, particularly in East County, where you look at the response times, you look at the increase in crime rates, and this also, I speak from my experience as a board member, but also as a community member. We have lost many students to gun violence. Each one of my kids has lost a friend to gun violence, and that's not normal. And I've been to funerals of students, and that's not an experience I would have ever dreamed for my kids. It wasn't my experience growing up, but it's incredibly painful. And so I think public safety and community policing, that needs to be first and foremost of our thinking as a collaborative council. We need to demand that we have community policing that works. We need to build an infrastructure. We need retraining of our police. We need culturally specific, trauma-informed response. We need Portland Street response to be funded and supported, and it needs to be county-wide. It needs to be all throughout all districts and not just one or two. We need to see that investment. We need to see it done in the way it was intended. So I think public safety, having serious conversations about funding, infrastructure, and creating communities that are safe for East County and for all of Portland. I think the other is sustainability, and that encompasses everything from clean air, our roads, access to transportation, and housing. Being mindful of affordable housing, housing the unhoused. I think that we are at a crisis with our houseless community, but I want it done in a humanistic, empathetic way. I believe that criminalizing people who cannot access affordable housing or any housing, there's no humanity in that, and I want it to be humanistic because it breaks my heart. And part of those are the two things that I think are incredibly important. And I think I can speak from my experience from both public safety. That's been really impactful in my life as an elected leader. I've had threats to my home, to my safety, and I've been a victim of crime. And again, my children experiencing the loss of friends to gun violence. So that is part of my lived experience, and it's very painful, and I can speak to that. I've talked about that several times in different endorsement interviews about the importance of that and the steps I think we should take. In terms of sustainability, there's a lot of different areas where it's been really impactful. I have 2 kids that have asthma, and so when you look at the heat map of East County, it's elevated. It's crisis mode. And I have 2 kids that have asthma, and I had a son. My son was riding a bike several years ago and had a near-fatal asthma attack riding his bike. And it's just there's something that needs to be done about that, the rezoning of East County. We have so many commercial properties and vehicles that are polluting our air and within steps of our schools. It's incredibly important that we look at how where our communities are, where our investment needs to be in terms of and in terms of not just affordability but sustainability, the clean air, making sure that we have zoning that really makes sense in our communities instead of having industrial, commercial properties nestled in our communities. We need to have an opportunity to advocate before that happens. So there's a lot of important conversations that we need to have in terms of sustainability. Another thing I think about is access to transportation. And I know that was something that we talked a great deal about as a Board of Education, is funding for students for transportation. As you get further out into East County, the times of the availability of access to transportation to TriMet, it's very spotty and it's not safe for our kids. We want our kids to have access to being able to go to sports activities, using public transportation to work and school. We have very limited access, ability or resource to provide TriMet passes to all of our students. We've had, the past few years, we've been able to support our high school students, but middle school, elementary, and again, with the challenges with that, access to public transportation, also access and limited access to walkable roads. We have a lot of sidewalks in East County that are not finished or not safe. So there's a lot of issues with pedestrian safety, cycling, access to that that we need to address and support. So that has been a part of our experience. We've been having those conversations for years, and I think it needs to be elevated at the city council.
Yeah, we need to get out of our cars and into the buses and on bicycles and on our feet, like you say, walking.
Walking.
Let's take up walking.
Right, but you have to have safe sidewalks in order to do that. There's some communities where there's no sidewalks. And,
Right.
Yeah,
That's
it's unbelievable.
a big deal.
Yeah, I noticed that during COVID when I would go on walks with my girls, and there were some streets were paved and some weren't, and I thought, I don't understand how kids walk to school without paved roads. You're in the middle of the street and you're walking, and you've got to depend on people being safe and slowing down, and not running into kids. So it's just so unbelievable to go from one community to another and see the disparity, to see the paved, beautiful sidewalks of other communities, but you don't see that in East County. And it's just, I think that you spend your money where you think is important. You invest your money in what you think is important. I think that East County should have those resources. We should have safe streets. So I think it's important to invest in that.
Yeah.
Hear, hear. Well, let's hope that the fact that we're going to have city councilors from District 1 on city council, let's hope that's the right step toward that.
Absolutely. I hope so.
Yeah. Toward making this an equitable city.
This may not be something you thought about, Sonja, but I've been listening to the reports about how current city council members and the mayor are doing all they can to consolidate their power and influence before this new election.
Yeah.
They're not going to go quietly, and I'm worried that they're not going to help enable new city council members to be as effective as you can be. Do you have any thoughts about how you can address that as a group of council members? And
well, I think first and foremost I have a problem with the word power, and I think it's just my years of experience working on different types of boards, small boards to large boards. Your power as a city council member, as a board member, is collective. We're not state representatives. We're not, you know what I mean? We're not. So our power is collective. So I think it's important, first and foremost, to know that the power that we'll have as city council, we'll have power within our District 1 to, be representative. We have the power to collectively pass policy, approve budgets. And I think singularly our power is collective. So our power to change the framework of how decisions are made, we can do that as a collective body. We have the power to do that. What they're doing now, whatever they're trying to do now to circumvent or change to tilt the power dynamic or limit our powers, the thing is that the structure of what the charter reform has given us is we are going to be regional representatives. We are going to be able to engage with community, collect our feedback from community, represent our community, collectively pass budgets, collectively create policy. So those are the three powers that we have. And I think it's a much more productive model than giving a city councilor a bureau where they've really never had that tangible experience. Someone who's a politician, giving them a bureau to manage. I've seen some challenges with that. We've had some wonderful, I think all of our counselors have done an incredible job given the circumstances. But you can't really say that they all were prepared for the role of managing a bureau. There were some folks that had some management experience, but it really wasn't relevant to the experience they brought to the role. But I think what's really incredibly important is that our city council should be representative of people who are used to being engaged with community, used to listening, and bringing that back to a council. They're used to being in a collaborative group, listening to other ideas, reaching a consensus, being mindful of the budget, and creating policy. And that's where our power is really collective. I think the only way we could, I think the only independent power we have is the way that we speak to our community and represent our community, and then bringing that information back. But everything else is collective. So I'm not clear on where they're trying to diminish our power, because I think the model is going to dictate where our power lies. That's what I think. So
Yeah, I hope you're right. Yeah, that sounds good to me.
yeah.
You mentioned earlier, Sonja, that you as a group of candidates in this situation are supportive of each other. And I've heard that also from our friend Andra. Has that surprised you as someone who's entered this campaign? And
It did, because I was very nervous. It's a very different field. It's much more elevated at the city level, and I was anticipating, and I was very, very. I kind of just stood back. One of the first couple community events I went to, I kind of just watched, kind of scanned the room and see how people were interacting, and I was surprised by it. But I'm pleased to see that's been the case. I think that there might be some groups that are kind of doing this, or individual candidates that might be doing this back and forth with each other. But for the most part, everybody, when I've been in the community with different districts and different candidates in District 1, it's all been really pleasant and supportive. So I embrace it, because that's the family I come from. I believe in collaboration. I was at an event last week with one candidate. He said, there's going to be the three of us that win, but we're all going to end up working for each other. You know that, right? We're going to help you get on this board, or help you do that. And I was like, he's like, we're going to, I could be someone's chief of staff. And I was like, yeah. I said, it might work out that way. He's like, we're all like, everybody's amazing, right?
Yes.
I was like, yeah.
Wow, do I love that idea.
Isn't that cool? I was so excited when he said that, because I was in an endorsement interview, and it was 7 of us for a union, and they were shooting questions at us, and they rotated who went first. And so the second question I did fine, everybody was amazing. And then the third question is like this big paragraph, and they put it up there on the screen, and then it disappeared. And like, okay, so you're first. And I was like, oh crap. So I started to answer the question. I was like, did I finish the question? And then I rambled and said something else, and I was like, okay, that's all I have. And I was texting one of them. I was like, I did terrible. She goes, no, you did great. It was fine. It was fine. I was like, okay.
Seriously, right?
Yeah,
Putting yourself out there can be that.
Man, I tell you, I was sweating that one. There was only 3 questions, but they were just shooting them at us. I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to live through this? Oh, something else. But
I'm not sure I've heard of an endorsement interview before. Is that something you're interviewed in the hopes of getting someone's endorsement?
Yeah, so a lot of the labor unions are doing those rounds of interviews now. So, and everybody's different. Every organization, every union is different.
It's a competition then.
It's very competitive, yeah. I have a campaign team member that's helping me navigate all those, and she's like, okay, I'm going to work on this one, and let me know when you're ready to do this one or submit. I spend Saturdays working on those.
Yeah.
It's just unbelievable. So
Yeah, so you have to study the interests of each organization.
Yeah. So lots of research, and I have my values and what I believe, and I try to incorporate that in my answers. And sometimes I have to do research. They ask me about things, I'm like, I don't know about that. So I do my research and come up with my ideas, and so it's a really great exercise. And the things that are going to be thrown at you as city councilor, different iterations of questions and challenges. So it's a great exercise. I think I've learned a lot. So, but and there's great theories of thought. I've had some folks that are running. It's like, that's the old system. They're not buying into it or worrying about it. And some folks are like, hey, how you doing on that endorsement interview? Have you finished that questionnaire? We were all like talking about that the other day at this event. And one person was like, oh, was that due yesterday? Oh, man.
Oh, no.
It's like, I'll turn it in anyway. I'm sure they'll take it.
So you're saying it's not like everyone does it the same way, that people are
Everybody
all
does
finding their own path for how they campaign.
Yeah.
Why didn't I think of it that way? So interesting.
Yeah, we were all talking about how we do our questionnaires, and one guy was like, no, I just recreate my questions every time. And I'm like, oh no, I have a Google Doc and I'm tracking everything I've answered. And some people are like, did you do research before you did those? I went, oh yeah, I had to research before I So I sound like I know what I'm talking about.
I mean, think how much you're going to have to research as a city
Yes,
councilor. Like,
a lot.
you've got to deal with everybody's issues then.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah. And the thing that I love about this is the opportunity to learn and grow too. I think that if everybody has the basics of, knowing about governance and the importance of budget and they get the basics of the position, and then all that's just learning about, okay, what does a city budget really look like? Tearing that apart, because I've never looked at the city council budget. I've never inspected it the way that we're going to as city councilors. I mean, I've looked at what's published and the general terms, but there's such a learning curve to what we're going to be involved in and make decisions on. So it's going to be a lot. And then there's a whole new restructuring of, the whole landscape. We're going to have a city manager and deputies and all these different people. It's all going to be a learning. I think that first year is going to be learning for everybody. So
Cool. You're part of the freshman class.
Yeah, it's going to be really amazing to be a part of that.
The new council positions are structured as full-time jobs.
They're full-time jobs, yeah, full salary and staff, and I think I think there may be some adjustments to the number of staff, or I know that they're building the offices, and so, I think 1 or 2 staff is enough, and then there's hybrid work, there's ways to work from home and all that, so I think there's been some discussion about capacity, the number of staff per counselor.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think about my campaign, and everyone works virtually. You don't meet folks in person, so I think there's this workforce. You have to be diplomatic and be creative and do hybrid models. And I don't think you can expect everybody to have 5 people and 5 offices for their staff. I mean, nobody thinks they're going to have that kind of space, but
Right. But even without that, there's been quite a bit of concern about whether the city can find the money to pay everybody's staff.
Right. Well, you certainly can't do that job alone. I mean, if this is going to be full time, you're all in. You've got to have a support team.
Of course.
There's no way you can go through all those emails and the planning your calendar. I mean, I can barely do it now. I have an assistant I hired a year ago to help me with my life, and I'm just working a nonprofit, and I'm 4 different boards. So I was like, I need help.
Wow.
So even as a city councilor, it's going to be, double that. It's going to be amazing. So it's a lot. But I see it all as an opportunity, though. There's going to be a lot of hits and misses and things that we'll have to learn from. But I think that there's like this chain of emails we're all on now, District 1. We're all like, it'll work itself out. If we just have one, then, we'll just do what's best. And if there's only space for 1 staff person, then people could work virtually. We could hire people part-time or something, so.
Because isn't it true they're actually building, constructing new buildings because of the number of counselors and staff?
They are, yeah. They're going to have to remodel everything, yeah.
I mean, go Portland. We don't hold back when we want something. We're like, yeah, it's tough. Too bad. We want it. Do it.
Well, it's an important investment, but think of what you're investing in. You're changing the city, and you're bringing people in or be representative. It's going to really change the landscape of Portland. It's really amazing, that investment. So,
so good.
Very exciting stuff. So, but nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just trying to manage my anxiety and just stay positive and stay true to who I am and just enjoy it, because it is stressful. I mean, the endorsement interviews were that one. I was so negative on myself, and then I went and sat with a state senator, and he was so supportive. He's like, so excited about you. Just everyone's excited. I want to support you. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. It's like, okay, you say so.
I mean, how amazing. You've said a few times throughout today's conversation, you've mentioned how people around you, although you're not saying, hey, everyone, look at me, it's like you must emanate something, because the people around you seem to gravitate toward understanding the strength of your leadership despite your quiet manner of speaking, and whatever. I get that. I'm land there with you.
It's been a real blessing, because I'm not the kind of person that's like, hey, it's me.
Yeah.
I kind of stand there and people are like, hey, sing this over here. But folks that know me, and I'm quiet, but when I start talking, they're like, okay, when she starts talking, you gotta be quiet because she's gonna say something.
Yeah.
And someone say that, you're like E.F. Hutton. Remember those commercials? I'm like, oh my gosh, really?
Wait, what commercials?
E.F. Hutton, like whenever it was in the 70s, probably before your time.
Okay, yeah, probably.
Those E.F. Hutton, when they talk, you listen or something like that. And I was like, oh yeah, I remember those commercials. I'm old enough. They're like, you're kind of like that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've just been really fortunate on the boards I've been on around the state and regionally. I've had people I've come into space and people are like, I've heard about you. It's like, who told you? And I'm like, oh, this person that you were served on this board with.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's I just feel really blessed to have a lot of support, really great friends that have seen what I've done and are excited and they're like, don't worry about the noise, just be you, you're gonna be fine. You start talking, they'll be quiet, they'll stop and listen. So I'm like, okay.
So the fact that people do want to listen to you is going to serve this collective decision making that you talked about earlier. Because as you said, also you're not interested in power.
No.
You're interested in
action. Yeah, absolutely. And listening and being the voice of community. I want to translate what their concerns are. And that's why I'm so excited about canvassing and getting out there and saying, what do you want me to talk about? What do you think is important? And what do you think about my platform? And do I need to change things? Or it's incredibly important. I think I take it so seriously, and it's not about me. And I'm just kind of like that vessel of translating their fears and concerns. And it's when I learned when I first started canvassing, and I had no idea what I was doing. I would literally pick a street. And I was with my kids, and I was like, okay, this street looks good. I'm going to talk to these people in this house, and you guys stand at the corner. And I was just like, hi, I'm Sonia. I'm running for school board. And I start talking, and they're like, are those your kids? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, can we talk to your kids too? I'm like, sure. So they bring them up, and my kids are like, wow, Mom, you really like this stuff. I was like, I just, introduce myself, say who I am. And they're like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. And it's great to meet somebody face to face and, and find out who you are. And they see I'm a mom, and I'm just not grandiose. It's just, I'm a mom, and I'm concerned about education, and, I live in the communities where my kiddos, and then we find common ground with that too. Because, have people come to the door with their kids or their babies, and people are like, hey, we saw your flyer, or we saw you in a news article. We're going to vote for you. Thanks for stopping by. So that's so impactful. When I had that happen, and a couple times when my kids were trick-or-treating, and people were like, I didn't recognize you. They're like, no, Mom. Not when we're trick-or-treating. I was like, oh, never mind. I'm on the school board. Like, you look familiar. But yeah, just being me and, saying, I can translate your concerns. I'm happy to do that. Yeah. So being a good listener.
So each set of counselors from each of the 4 districts, they're all of you in one district will be representing the whole district? Yes,
yeah. So I don't think there's going to be like division. We clearly represent the district. So yeah, and I don't know how that's going to work either. But I think it's coverage, and I think it's also lived experience. It's priorities, all of that. So if you have representation, I think that. And somebody said that to me today, and I had coffee with. They said, there's going to be 3 offices for District 1. People are going to come to City Council, and they're going to walk into the office of the person they feel they have more in common with. Or maybe they talk to them on a campaign, or they like their speech, or they feel like they can come in and they're going to listen, or there's a connection there. So they're going to have an option of who they speak to. And that's what's really important. So we can't have cookie cutter. We need to have representation. We need to have a lived experience, someone that can connect with, even language, all of that, lived experience, everything. That's going to be incredibly important to have that. So, and that was such a great way of us thinking about that. They're going to decide which office they're going to walk into based on who they feel comfortable with.
Yeah.
So that's incredibly important.
Wow. This has been incredibly rich. Do we have anything we didn't say? Anything we still want to ask? Do we just want to shoot the shit more? Anything else?
No, I've enjoyed this. This has been great. I hope I didn't go off on a tangent. But.
Yeah.
No, it's wonderful.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh,
Thanks.
yeah, thank you.
So before we wrap up for the day, I do want to be sure that you have a chance to tell all the listeners where they can find out more information about you and your campaign.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find more information at my website, sonjaforpdx.com. And then I'm going to be starting some new engagements, some coffee with candidates in East County, and I'll be sharing that on my newsletter and also on the website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have any social media that people can follow you on?
I do. I have a Facebook page, Instagram. I have X, formerly known as Twitter.
Yes.
Yeah, I have it all. So I've got all that, and that's also you can find that through my website as well. It connects all my social media.
Okay.
So yeah.
Great. Now no one has any excuse for not finding you and connecting with you.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, we're great. All right, Sonja McKenzie from District 1.
Thank
you
you.
so
Thanks.
much for being with us.
Thank you so much for the time. This is great. Really fun.
Oh, marvelous.
Thank you for joining us on Speaking Truth to Goodness for our engaging conversation with Sonja McKenzie. Sonja's deep-rooted passion for community service and her forward-thinking vision for Portland shine a light on what compassionate, informed leadership looks like. Her stories of overcoming challenges and spearheading transformative projects offer a glimpse into the potential future of Portland under her guidance. As we wrap up today's episode, we're reminded of the impact that dedicated individuals like Sonja can have on our local government and communities. Her commitment to literacy, community engagement, and education exemplifies the kind of leadership that resonates with our shared values of creating a more inclusive and thriving Portland. Please continue the conversation by liking, commenting, and sharing this episode. Follow us on Instagram to stay updated. Join us next time and keep speaking truth to goodness, because goodness is all around.